All right. Good morning. Happy Friday. Um, yeah. Welcome to another HMG Weekly Wrap Up. Glad to have everybody here. And as you can tell, I am not alone. Not alone today. This devilishly handsome young man to my what would be my right, looking at the screen, is Mr. Jon Mayo. Jon, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's Freedom After Day.
It's a free it's freedom after day. Absolutely. I- oh, this is gonna be a good show, guys. Um, yeah, Jon is part of the first off, Army veteran and part of the HMG family. And we'll get to know Jon here a little bit more as the show goes on. But before we dive into that, I want everybody to know, those of you that watch this, whether it's you jump on the live or you watch this later on throughout the weekend or whatnot, go check out heroesmediagroup.com. Check out all the shows and stuff that we got coming up over there. We got a lot of new things coming. A lot of shows have been doing a lot of stuff. You've been seeing us more active on the social channels with some of the other shows. Homefront Sit Rep, we'll get into them. David Wellis has done a fantastic job with the stuff that he's doing over there. So we'll get into that here in a little bit, but I want to dive into and there's David right there on the old IG. Appreciate you, David, jumping on. I want to dive into something very special. Yesterday, America's birthday, 248 years of just star-spangled awesomeness. With everything that's going on in the world right now, I still think that we are the greatest country in the world. I believe that. I believe that even with everything and the corrupt government and everything, I still think that we are the greatest country in the world. This is a great place to be. And but thank you. Thank all of you out there that tune in every week, that watch. Thank you for everything that everybody does. I want to thank my brothers and sisters in arms. 248 years of just outstanding awesomeness. So happy birthday, America. It's been awesome. What, Jon, did you guys do anything for you got family and whatnot? Did you guys do anything special for the Independence Day?
Yeah, special to me at least. Hung out with my 4 boys and bride. We had the opportunity to show some of Indiana to some friends who are visiting.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was nice. And just fellowship with community, drinking the freedom and invested in the kiddos. So it's a
Nice.
beautiful way to spend the day.
Nice. I love that. I love that. I would like to say I've done the same, but I've turned into a grumpy old man on the corner house. And I'm the president of the HOA board. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Some of you out there that watch that, listen to that, are going to say something.
There's
But
judgment.
yeah, there's a lot of it. I honestly, I judge myself. I hate myself for doing it, but I've done it. But just making sure, like, we live in a kind of a small community, and making sure that there's certain rules you got to abide by with fireworks, and making sure they don't go off above the houses. And we had a couple do that last night, and it's very dry out here, so I kind of had to be the party pooper and just kind of remind everybody, like, hey, you can't do that. Instagram, we got to be, I'm judging you, brother. Yeah, I know you are, Damien. And then Homefront Sit Rep, the grumpy old vet. Yeah, that's yeah, I kind of feel that way, guys, sometimes, but it's safety. I played safety officer last night for a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. There was only one incident, and they stopped. Everybody was respectful, and everybody else had a good time. So it was pretty good. Low key, very low key. There's another. Well, before I get into that, I love 4th of July. Some years I like it better than others. Fireworks and stuff like that. Yeah, it is what it is. I know some vets aren't too keen on it, but others, are. As long as everybody's safe, that's all that matters. What we have here, Ryan Williams, the fun plea.
Yeah, my kids refer to the HOA as the communist regime.
Yeah,
And
that's so here's the thing. I know people are gonna be like, oh, you're one of those guys. I, I'm the same way. I was like your kids. I was like, oh, it's a communist party just for a neighborhood. And I used to think that way, but I also was like, changes in our neighborhood weren't happening. So it was like, if you can't beat them, join them, and then change it within. And that's
Mhm.
basically what I've done in the last 2 years of it. This will be my last year doing it, however, but it was quite an experience, and grateful for the opportunity to help our little community in which we live in. So judge away.
Well, if you
Uh,
can't beat them, join them, and then rule them better.
right,
So,
right. Home front sit rep. I only like fireworks when I'm in control. Yeah, I same with unions. Change from yeah. You got to, and that's the thing with when it comes to when it comes to the HOAs. If you want, here's the other thing. Too many people that I've learned, they complain about stuff, but they don't do anything about it. I was one of those people. I didn't do anything about it for the longest time. I chose to do something, and I did, and I was able in doing so, I was able to make some changes in the community. Heather, good morning to you, my little sister, jumping on to say hello. Um, Appreciate you. So there's something else, John. Something else that happened this week that I would like to share. Um, this month, back in 2015, HMG was born. I had another company prior to Heroes Media Group. Those that know the story, and that we shut that down. But so this is our 9-year anniversary this month of Heroes Media Group. We've been podcasting for veterans in the Heroes community since summer of 2015. So it's a feather in my cap. I never, you know, there were days where I never thought I'd get this far with it. But I want to thank all the viewers. I want to thank all the listeners. More importantly, I want to thank all the shows that are on the network currently and the ones that were on the network in the past when we first started and whatnot, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the shows. So shout out to all of the shows, both past and present, for being a part of Heroes Media Group. 9 years at this, and I feel so blessed that we get to do this. And it's only getting better. I've said this in the past. We're just getting started, and we are. Thank you, everybody over in Instagram world. Yep, home front sit rep. Proud to have you guys on. Um, it's been a blessing. It really has, and I look forward to the next uh 9, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, or as long as the good Lord allows me to keep breathing. So thank you, everybody, for the love and support, because we're just getting started. We got a lot of new things coming up. So um last weekend, NASCAR was out in Nashville, and the crew from Misfit Nation was out there covering it. Go to the Misfit Nation on Instagram. You can see some of the pictures that Rich and the crew out went out there. Really cool. I think Rich signed the starting line, which was really really neat. But they got all the pictures and stuff over there, so that was really cool. Shout out! I wanted to give them a shout out because they did a great job last weekend covering NASCAR. Um, I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina last weekend for an event called Empowered Podcasting. It's a newer event. This was their first year doing it. A lot of great people. Mark and his crew did a fantastic job. But one of HMG's own, Shay Sparks, was one of the speakers that weekend, and let me see here. She spoke on. Oh, I just lost it. She spoke on the art of interviewing, and she did it. She killed it. She rocked it through and through. But it was great going down there. seeing that. And it was fun kind of walking around because a lot of the people at this particular event had been podcasting only for about 4 or 5 years. And then you turn and look at me, who's been doing it for the latter part of a decade, and people finally like, oh God, how long have you been doing it? So it was fun. I got to meet some amazing people, and I'm looking forward to next year's Empowered Podcasting. So Mark and his crew down there, thank you for having us down, and great work on that. And Shay Sparks, fantastic job. Some events coming up. Podcast Movement is coming to DC August 19th through the 22nd. If you're a podcaster and you're going to wow, a little. If you're a podcaster, why don't you come on down to DC in August there, and yeah, we'll break some bread and have some good conversations. Come on down, Podcast Movement in DC. It's going to be held at the Gaylord at National Harbor, August 19th through the 22nd. Let me know if you guys are going to be there. I'd love to link up with you. And then in September, Patriot Pride. Is that Mark or Andrea? Kaylin, the Wisconsin snuck out. A little bit, Yeah, a little bit. You got that Midwestern stuff, I'm practicing. Because I'm leaving in a couple weeks. I'm going to be up there. We'll get into that in a second. September, our friends over at Team Addo. It's that time of year, guys. The All Heroes Open Charity Golf Classic is happening in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's down by Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty or whatever they're calling it nowadays. September 13th. And then we will be in Tampa for the annual All Heroes Welcome Ball, September 20th. And then the very next day is the All Heroes Open Charity Fishing Tournament, September 21st. Yours truly. I'll be down there. We go down there every year. Excuse me. So if you're interested in that, go to teamaddo, ADDO.org. Come on down to Tampa. It's a great time. Let me see here. So that's it for events. I got John, I got a message this morning about the medical foster care program. Have you ever heard of that?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, so I guess this started in 2002. It's now in 47 states, but CBS did a story on this. I guess it looked pretty recent, down in Baltimore. And really what it is, it's a care program for veterans. And it's like a foster care. It's like a foster care home where the veterans live in the homes of these people, and these people treat these veterans like their family. And so instead of these veterans going to older veterans, instead of them going to like nursing homes and stuff like that, they have a foster care program for veterans. I thought that was really cool. And the fact that it was in 47 states and it's been around for quite a while, I just thought I'd throw that out there. I thought that was kind of a feel good story. That looked pretty cool. We're going to look at that some more. Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Mark. All right, Mark. Appreciate you, brother. John, let's get into some topics.
Yeah, let's go. And that is cool. We're seeing a lot more families start to move back in together intergenerationally. So it's cool to see that even beyond family to support veterans, things like that people are opening up their homes.
It seemed like there was such a time where you couldn't wait to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Venture out and be on your own. And then it kind of comes full circle, There was a time where I was like, man, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. And now it's like, I don't want to live here anymore. I want to live here, blah, 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 blah. And then as I'm getting more seasoned, each year as the years pass, I'm like, I can't really picture myself living in the cold weather full time, but I like going back to Wisconsin. Yeah, I was like, maybe go back. I'm not sure. It's probably not going to happen. Sorry, Pop. But anyway, let's go. All right. So we're going to hit in some topics. Here's some news headlines that I found this week that I found kind of interesting. This one happened Wednesday. Moldy meals on Delta flights. On a Delta flight. Earlier this week, a Delta flight, a red-eye flight from Detroit to Amsterdam, was diverted to JFK up in New York after passengers were served spoiled food. Flight took off from Detroit around 11 p.m. and then landed in New York at 4 a.m. After reports of a portion of the main cabin in-flight meal service were spoiled. Apparently, the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey, which runs the airport there at JFK, said 14 of the plane's 277 passengers, as well as 10 of the crew members, were treated by medical personnel when the flight landed. None of them required hospitalization. I don't eat on flights, but this is a prime example of why I drive everywhere. Now, of course, I can't drive to Amsterdam until they build a bridge long enough, which, but it's I don't eat on flights. Eat before, if you guys are going to fly, eat before you get on the plane. Anyway,
It increases self-sufficiency. It reminds me of old MREs.
well, okay. What was your favorite MRE?
I don't even have one, man. I just ate and moved. It was,
Yeah,
it's just
it
go.
was just like just shove it in, taste it later,
Yeah.
or
Who doesn't
hopefully
love
not
the
at
peanut
all.
butter?
It's just
Yeah.
like I got excited when it, like the old MREs when I first joined. It was like it was the jalapeno cheddar and a cracker, or that really soft bread, or so they call it bread, you know.
Like essentially hardtack that was
Yeah, it was
moistened.
just like, yeah, this was great, you know. And then it was everybody like chili mac. I hated that. I couldn't stand that. It was beef stew was my favorite growing up. David said beef frankfurters. Oh, those like the Vienna sausages.
Yeah.
I remember those. And then I remember when they changed the MREs and you started getting candy like M&Ms or Skittles. I couldn't stand the Skittles. M&Ms weren't bad, but it was everything. Oh, the cheese tortellini. That was the other one. Everybody wanted the cheese tortellini, from what I remember.
And they've gotten very sugar rich, at least as of like 5,
Oh
6 years
God.
ago.
Now
Boy,
it's yes, have some Kool-Aid and blah 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 blah. You know, it's
did you ever try one of the high elevation, like supplemental
no.
MREs that they give you?
Uh-uh.
Oh boy, there's over a gram of caffeine and then just a crud ton of maltodextrin and sugar in them. It's just amazing. Like you're just like stimulating up like crazy. It's just insane. It's just yeah. Let's eat a kilo of sugar and
Yeah.
gram of caffeine and go. Here we go.
Now that you're
Mountains or nothing.
now that you're hopped up on it, yeah. Let's see here. People's Patriot Project. Keep it simple. Chili, stew, corned beef hash. I don't remember corned beef hash. David, cold weather MREs. Yeah. It's funny because I couldn't tell you the last time I had it. I'm sure everybody's got an MRE story when they were in the field. It just I could tell you one story quick. It wasn't the MREs, it was the old like C rations where it was like you're peeling back and it was just oh god, that shit was horrible. That's all I remember. It was just like you couldn't you couldn't wait until you went on R&R to go to like oh this was overseas too. So it was like you couldn't wait to go back to like the DMZ or get down to like Doha or Arifjan or whatever in Kuwait and get to like one of those little shopette things and get some pogie bait. You know, it was like Pop Tarts and Pringles were the thing, and that was about the only normal food. And which is why I you'll never see me with a Pop Tart or Pringles to this day because just that deployment ruined those things for me. So. Oh, anyway, let's move on. Maybe we'll have to do a show on MREs. That's funny. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for this headline. The Biden administration continues to fund the war in Ukraine with an additional $2.3 billion in military aid. The United States has announced an additional $2.3 billion in military aid to the Ukraine, aiming to bolster its defense against ongoing Russian aggression. Thoughts, John, on that?
Yippee.
I can't. More money. Now, let me just do this. Throwing more money away. Anybody who's watching right now, what are your thoughts on spending 2.3 billion? And we've, yeah, I can't. Moving on. Don't answer that, guys. Don't answer that one because it's one of those things. One of my favorite topics: China. New protocol gives China authority to seize Taiwanese boats at their discretion. Now you're probably asking, Adam, how could that be? It's a great question. Let's find out. A new protocol has allowed China's Coast Guard to seize a fishing boat near Taiwan's Kenman Islands. The incident has heightened tensions between Taiwan and China as Taiwan seeks to protect its fishing rights and its sovereignty. Couple different variations of this story, but the boat was seized on Tuesday night by the Chinese Coast Guard, in addition to 2 Taiwanese citizens and 3 Indonesians. While the area in question was deemed to be neutral fishing zone, according to Taiwan's fisheries agency, the Chinese government has said, no, that's our region. So, yeah, it's, we've been talking about China for a couple of years now, and I think this is something that it's going to continue. I've said this before. It's continuing. It's showing right now. It's continuing. Could this be the next war? I don't know. John, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, quite a few. I think that there's a lot at play that's been at play for decades, and things are getting spicier. So my continued focus goes more and more on what can we do about it? What can I do about it? Which I think is appropriate for later in our conversation. But listening to this, I think it's good to be aware of what's going on in the world and not be pulling the wool over our own eyes.
Yeah.
And then asking, what will I do?
Good call. What do we got here in the comments? David, homeless veteran shelter closing its doors. We'll get to that here in a second. But thank you for leaving David posted a link on that too. I'll check that out, Dave. Thank you. Next up, stay with us. We got 2 more. This one here, honestly, this is kind of selfish of me because I just think I think these topics are just kind of fun. Big week this week in the Supreme Court. A Trump victory. The Supreme Court rules former presidents have protection from prosecution. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled on Monday that Donald Trump cannot be prosecuted for the actions that were within his constitutional powers as the president in a landmark decision recognizing for the first time any form of presidential immunity from prosecution. The justices, in a 6-3 ruling authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, threw out a lower court's decision that had rejected Trump's claim of immunity from federal criminal charges involving his efforts to undo his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden. The 6 conservative justices were all in majority, while the 3 liberal members were not. And it's that particular line in the article and how they worded it is why I kind of hate mainstream media. But it's true. This is all about pushing buttons and painting a picture for everything. And I can hear, I have a lot of Democratic friends whom I love, and I got a lot of conservative friends also whom I love. And there's on both sides of the aisle, I agree and disagree with certain topics and whatnot. I just thought this was interesting. But here's the thing, me being the borderline conspiracy theorist, as some of you out there have so elegantly called me, I can't help but to think that this is a setup for something bigger here later coming down the pipeline. That's just me.
It's hard not to question. And, my perspective is mostly one just of sorrow, um, to see that this is what we're working with or what we currently have available to us. And, when I see everything that's like being broadcasted, being aimed at creating dissension
Yeah.
and removing unity, it mostly makes me focus on how do I help to create unity and restore relationships and focus on what can bring us together in pursuit of shared good. Because the old mantra, together we can stand, but divided we fall,
Yeah.
is a thought that's constantly on my mind.
Together we stand, divided we call we yeah, it's we fall. And that's funny that you put it that way because this next one and the last topic that we have for this week, um, Supreme Court of the United States immunity ruling angers AOC and she threatens articles of impeachment. I got to be honest because the a-hole in me really wanted to change the title of this that says something along the lines as bartender throws a fit. Representative AOC has threatened to introduce articles of impeachment against the Supreme Court justices following the controversial ruling that we had just talked about in the previous headline. AOC tweeted in fury about the ruling, saying the Supreme Court has become consumed by corruption, by a corruption crisis beyond its control. Other enraged Democrats include House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York, made a statement promising that the House Democrats will engage in aggressive oversight and legislative activity with respect to the Supreme Court to ensure that the extreme far right justices in the majority are brought into compliance with the Constitution. There's so many things that open up to that. And here's why I share this. I share these, and again, you guys don't take my word for it. Look this stuff up. Know what's going on. We're seeing what's happening and who the string pullers are. And if a certain group or organization doesn't get their way, then it's got to be an uproar. And this is where the whole media. And I say all this because it's the media that it really is trying to separate society as a whole. Adam's opinion. My opinion. So look this stuff up, guys. Seriously. And come to your own conclusion. And if you disagree with me, great. Leave a comment. Let's talk about it. Anything for that one, John?
Yeah, I think that regardless of if you agree or disagree with that as a tool for dissension or as a driving force or what have you, however you'd want to term it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of judging a tree by its fruit. So an example would be, do you want to take marriage advice from someone who's been married for 25 years if their marriage is god awful? Right? Like, yeah, they've been married a long time, but that doesn't mean they've done well.
Right. Yeah.
So similarly, there's a lot like, do you want to take parenting advice from people whose kids are little turds? These things all kind of play out. So in the same way, if we have this baseline understanding that Pringles and Pop-Tarts and MREs aren't the healthiest for us, but they'll get us through and we can choose to eat healthier, right?
Yeah.
We're both friends with AJ and what he's doing with food sovereignty and being
Yeah.
able to have that.
Yeah.
We know that our diet affects our well-being. Well, something I think we think about less often is the idea diet, the media that we expose ourselves to, and what does that do with our perception on the world?
Right.
And I think that regardless of that perspective, very simply put, it's important to be aware of the risks and changes and events that are going on around us.
Right.
But aware and constant consumption are two different things. So by no means am I advocating that we would bury our heads in the sand like ostriches, but how does one create awareness and then feed our minds with things that inspire strength instead of, panic, fear, anger, hopelessness, and all these other things that a lot of anger. When we look at like the headlines we just looked at,
Yep.
those are all when I hear them, I feel the natural response of wanting to be emotional about it and upset. And if that's all you're consuming mentally, goodness gracious, it's going to be like eating Skittles every day for breakfast.
Right.
Terrible.
It's horrible. But here's the thing, and I want to key in on something there. It's a mindset that you have to, if you know that the media is doing this. This is why I say every week, guys, and gals, don't take my word for it. I see certain topics and I don't pick certain ones. I just pick certain ones that deem interesting or that I think would be interesting, and stuff that I think people should be aware of. And I present it to you guys, not necessarily giving my opinion on it. I just think look it up and come up with your own conclusion and be aware of what's going on. More importantly, with the mindset is as you look it up, also remember the source of where it's coming from. Not from me, this is from mainstream media. I'm just sharing this, right? Isaiah 6:8. That's our boy Ron Beerland down in Arizona. God bless you, brother. Appreciate you jumping on. Thank you. That's it for the top. Let's change it up here a little bit. Who is Jon Mayo? Tell the viewers, listeners, all the people at home, what makes Jon Mayo tick? Who is Jon? I mentioned
hello.
earlier. I mentioned earlier you were an Army veteran, but tell everybody a little bit about yourself, my friend.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jon. I had to go with the overly cheesy. It was really cool getting to hear about Rich or I believe that Rich is listening, and then your time with Shay and stuff, because I've gotten to spend some time with a lot of the folks in the community, and that's really fun.
Yeah,
So thank you for opening up the doors to your amazing network and inviting me into it. Deeply
absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
And also, happy 9th birthday, HMG. That's pretty huge.
appreciate it.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
cool.
It's definitely been an interesting road, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Yeah, 100%. I hope that our paths continue to intercross heavily as we work towards that future together. So,
Absolutely.
um, to answer your question, I am a man who's striving to be a better man, a father, and a husband who wants to be better in both those elements. And
Yeah,
I have a singular desire to help unleash human potential by equipping folks to live uh, lives that embrace and utilize and maximize their liberty so that they can experience a great life. And more, everything I'm doing is honed through those lenses, and everything that I am is a result of that pursuit. So I don't know what much more to add right off the bat with that.
what are you doing exactly with that? You talk
Yeah,
about you want to help people and whatnot, like, but you've created. Let's dive into this a little bit, John. You've got a podcast, Jon Mayo podcast. You can find that where all podcasts are being played. But you've created. I mean, you've had several things. You have the Sisu Stamina, which is my little I call my afternoon vitamins. On days where I start feeling like I'm getting groggy, pop one of those bad boys in, and you next thing you know, you're out deadlifting a car. Um, it
but with smooth. You're
Yeah,
smooth when you're doing
right.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got the shades on. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you've also created like the Waymaker community,
Mhm.
and that. So talk a little bit about that and like the community and what your goal is with that and how people can get involved and those that watch and listen. Are you doing things where they can reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely. So, as far as putting that idea, right, and fair enough, people could be like, "What in the heck does that mean?" Right?
Yeah,
Helping unleash human potential, and so people can live free and create value and all that jazz. Well, doing a lot, and it kind of ties back into what we're talking about with the HOA as well, where it's like, oh, I can either complain about it or I can become part of the solution.
yeah,
And if we choose to live in an environment that has an HOA, we are like right now looking at, okay, what does taking it over look like? Because there are pros and cons to everything, but if you can either complain about something or work to be part of the solution. So
right.
similarly, pulling from that idea earlier, to where we are now, It was like foreshadowing or something. Everything that I'm working on looks at how do we become part of the solution to the things that we want to see change in our world.
Right.
And there's Sisu Stamina, which you just shared. Anything that we talk about, you can learn about through johnmayo.com, which I put under my name, and it will route you to any of the things we discuss. So there's Sisu Stamina, there's the Waymaker community, there's the books that I've written, the podcast that you've already mentioned, and these types of opportunities where we get to ally ourselves together in the pursuit of this shared goal. And the goal is simple: take radical responsibility of one's life, realize that we can change incrementally or dramatically to live the types of lives that we want to. And in so doing, allow that to trickle from oneself to the family, to the community, and through that, the world. And when we do that work, uh, we experience higher levels of life satisfaction. We experience greater levels of purpose because
Mm,
we're serving something greater than ourselves.
yeah.
And we get to be part of the very solution to the problems that we are seeing all around us. So the Waymaker community is an opportunity for people who are like-minded to come together in pursuit of the things that unify us, right? Creating better versions of ourselves, building stronger communities, creating value through solving something. That is the focus. And when that is your focus, it's amazing because all of a sudden, all of these barriers to entry, left versus right versus you name it, start to fade away in
Yeah.
pursuit of what the military did really well. Hey, we all bleed the same. We're all wearing the same uniform. It doesn't matter. Leave it at the door. We're going outside the wire, right?
Right.
We are
Right.
one team. Well, that's what this country started with. We are one team in pursuit of individual liberty. So to me, it seems like there's a opportunity for a rebirth and a revival of those ideas of and with that rebirth and revival, we have to lift up under the weight of the mantle of responsibility that comes with freedom. It's not freely given, and it will be lost without safeguarding and without
Mhm.
being upheld and utilized. So we have an immense responsibility to utilize our freedom well and
Right.
not throw it to the wayside and point fingers and do all these things that are unproductive. So
But John, what are you doing right now then with the community? Is this like like, do you guys get together at a coffee shop and have meetings, or like what exactly
yeah,
can one expect if they were, or maybe somebody's watching or listening right now and they're like, hey, I want to check out Waymaker community. I'm assuming and those of you that are just listening, it's johnmayo.com. You can go to his website and see all of this stuff as well. But
yeah.
talk a little bit, like, what is it? Is it a weekly meeting? Is it something you have to be in your area? Is it something that's done online? Like what?
Yeah, absolutely. And johnmayo.com with no H, because like some older senator owns that one and I've not been able to acquire it. But um, that's a different conversation. So the community itself is really planting a seed,
Yeah.
right? Like there's that old saying that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time's now.
Yeah.
So the community itself is that seed that's being tended. And at the moment, it's going through a bit of an evolution to prepare for what's coming. Because right now there's some shifts in the work for how we're pursuing this shared purpose. But the community is a great opportunity, right? You can either sign up at johnmayo.com to stay informed through newsletters or join the community. It's housed currently on Discord. And once you're in the community, there's an open source one, which has just a lot of resources to what we're doing. And there's no cost, no commitment. Then the closed community, I'm about to flatten and broaden so that there's maximal value for everyone who joins. And that's where you can interact with the core group and have more. We're working on master classes, different explorations on a monthly rhythm, things like that, to just share ideas, create value, and travel through this adventure called life together as we're doing the things that we've talked about so far.
Nice.
So right now, it's in a steady state where we are going deep rather than broad on the relationships that are there
Yeah.
and the value that we can create together. And that's an intentional season that we're in now. Very happily welcome anyone who's interested in this to come join and help add value to what we are doing as we continue to evaluate what is the best way to steward the resources that we have in pursuit of these goals. And that's really where a lot of my excitement comes in,
Yeah.
is seeing kind of the path forward and how it's evolving even from, you know, the last few months. And how that's intersecting with some other life changes to allow for some really cool things to happen as we continue forward.
I love it. John, I want to take a step back for a second. We mentioned that you were a military veteran. Can you talk a little bit about, branch of service? What'd you do?
Yeah,
Rank?
absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Army artillery officer. Had the opportunity to do a lot of cool things, was not given the opportunity to deploy. Um, so really just maximized what I could do in service of my men and in our units and help advance doctrine and how we fight as artillery uh, or in indirect fires and create as much value as possible while I had the opportunity to serve.
How
Learned and
many years?
extracted from that. Just over 4.
Nice. Nice. Well,
Mhm.
thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah. Same to
And
you.
thank you for your brotherhood. I appreciate you being a part of the HMG family. And again, those of you watching, listening, jonmayo.com, JONMAYO.com. Go check out all the stuff that he's doing there. Reach out to him. He's just a good person to have in your Rolodex, quite frankly. We have great
Little
I love it when we get together because we'll start talking and then 90 minutes later we're like, oh shit. What do we call each other for anyway?
Yeah.
Yes. So, well, listen, John, I appreciate you jumping on with us this morning. We got to transition into talk about some of the shows that are on Heroes Media Group and what they did this week. So, would you care to join me for this? Yes.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Let's dive into some of the shows here. First up in the queue, we have who do we have here? Homefront Sit Rep podcast. They do several shows a week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I believe. This one here, it's titled "Every Day's a Saturday" with USMC veteran Brian Roof, ROOF. Every day's a Saturday. USMC veteran started in January 2023. Brian was sitting around and decided he wanted to start a podcast. So he did. That's exactly what he did. Talks about grabbing his head, how he started the podcast. He got the first season was 25 episodes with 50 interviews. Now, well into his second season here in 2024, doing interviews, but he added true crime military edition episodes. This was really cool. And quite honestly, I don't think we think about it from a military or from a veteran standpoint, just some of the stuff that happens in the military, kind of the dark secrets that we could say get swept under the rug, I guess. Very interesting. So check it out. This is a great episode. Homefront Sit Rep podcast. And like I said, David has done a great job. It's one of our newer shows. Really, and I say newer within like the last 3 months. Has joined the network. Big supporter. Just great what they're doing over there. So congratulations, guys. Next up, another newer show, The Professional Rule Breaker. This week, they're celebrating their 100th episode. Congratulations. This is awesome. And what they did was over the course of the last 100 episodes, they've kind of pulled some highlights from different ones to share wisdom, strategy, and inspirational journeys. I had the fortunate blessing to be a part of one of the highlights in this. I was on their podcast a couple months ago. Amazing, but congratulations, The Professional Rule Breaker, for 100 episodes. Outstanding work. Keep up the good job. Next up, we got Senior Living Guide.com podcast. This week, let's eat foods that meet so many physical, mental, gut health, as Lisa Johnson from Homestyle Direct discusses the significance of hydration, gut health, and the roles of prebiotics and probiotics in maintaining healthy digestive systems. This was a very, very interesting episode. And here's the thing, Senior Living Guide, immediately, guys our age, we start thinking, we got another 20 years before we're there. No, we don't. We're there. These are all things that we need to be looking at right here, right now. Excuse me. Lisa talks a little bit. They talk about foods that impact mental health. And she also talks about tips on incorporating vital nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin B12. And I think maybe there's probably a lot of veterans out there that are probably prescribed vitamin B12. I know I was for the longest time. So great episode. You learn a lot from this show. Seniorlivingguide.com. Check it out. Next up, we got our newest show to the network, Patriots Inside the Wire with Gold Star mother. This week she has Terry Burgess. He's a Gold Star dad and the founder of Gold Star Parents Retreat. Tells how the organization was developed out of a necessity and how a loss created an opportunity to help and support others. Really cool story. Check that out. That's this week's Patriots Inside the Wire. This is another show that does lives 2 nights a week or 3 nights a week, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, on their Facebook channel. So Patriots Inside the Wire. Check it out. Let me see here. Next up, we got Bump in the Road. Here's a question for you. Have you ever felt you've achieved everything that you've ever been told, that everything that you've ever aimed for, only to find yourself feeling empty and unfulfilled? I had to sit with this one for a while when I read that, and then I started listening to it. Constantine, he's a high achiever who seemed to have it all: a successful career at Microsoft, a loving family, all the shiny toys that one could desire. But amidst all of that, wasn't happy. And he goes into that with this episode and then talks about, despite hard work, earned success, he faced a profound internal struggle, leading him to the question, the very fabric of his achievements and the definition of happiness. And he talks about all of this and how he overcomes it in this episode. The show is called Bump in the Road. Check it out. Very interesting. Next up, we got the Arms Room Show. The OGs of HMG. I started saying that now. This is the OG show of HMG. They were here from day one. I brought them over from our other platform. Great show. This week, they're just... Oh, I tried to say it with a straight face. I couldn't. This week, they're discussing goofy shit that we see in the shooting and medical industry. Their words, not mine. That's what show notes say. Goofy shit that they see in the shooting and medical industry. This
Gets
is
across.
it really does. And this is one of those shows that you learn so much from these guys. Glenn's been a longtime friend, and his wife Drew. They were out recently. My wife and I got to spend time with them, and it's always a pleasure spending time. If I have anything firearms related, like any questions on firearms, whether it's optics, ammunition, anything like that, he's the first person I call, because he knows everything on that. And they do a lot of, I call it dirt medicine. But you learn so much from the show. It's not just the name, the Arms Room Show. It's so much more than shooting. There's so much that goes into medical training, real life scenarios. You got some hunting episodes that they've done and stuff like that. This is just an all around educational show. And this is something that everybody, and I mean everybody, can learn stuff from. Go check it out. It's called the Arms Room Show. And they have a new episode that comes out every Monday at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. They launch a new episode. So go check that out. Misfit Nation. podcast. We were talking about them a little bit earlier as they covered NASCAR last week over there in Nashville. They're starting to do multiple shows as well, but their Tuesday crew welcome Ryan Penley. He's a beacon of hope for those struggling with addiction. With over 4 years of hard-won sobriety, Ryan shares his inspiring journey of overcoming adversity and reclaiming control over his life. His debut book, Man Up, Sober Up, offers a practical guidance and serves as a testament to resilience. This is a very uplifting episode this week. Go check it out, the Misfit Nation podcast. Man Up, Sober Up by Ryan Penley. That's I love stories like this, John. I love hearing stories like this where you have guys that are men and women that overcome, a demon. Let's face it, addiction can be a demon, and when you come out of that, and get that win and the sobriety, this is a really cool episode. Check it out, Misfit Nation podcast. Next up, yeah, it's I love episodes like that. Next up, the People's Patriot Project. I know they were on here a little bit earlier. They do a show Sunday night called We Got Your 6 at 6. This week, they had Miss Kimmer G. Winner. Hope I said that right. Probably not, so I apologize. And they also had Daniel Crawford from 23rd Veteran. Daniel's a good guy. I've talked to him before. Yeah. Who is a major participant of the Ruck Life events. Lots of rucking happening in this world. So it's a great episode. Now, the People's Patriot Project, nonprofit organization founded by Mark Peterson. God, I'd say about a decade ago. I mean, I remember talking about them doing it way back in the day. Anyway, We Got Your 6 at 6, and then they do a weekly brief, I think on Monday nights, I believe, and then they have a We P3 radio where they highlight veteran musicians in the music world. So pretty cool. But this particular episode, We Got Your 6 at 6, kind of like a round table. It's a good time. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on their Facebook page. Go check it out. Next up, the Decision Hour with yours truly.
Shameless plug.
I know, right? That guy. This episode was a fun episode because I got to hang out and talk with my friend Junaid Amid, who just wrote a book, 7 Stages of Home Studio Evolution. And I'm totally giving that a plug right now because we talked about his book and we also, and how easy, it's an easy read and it's for any level. Like if you're just getting into podcasting or if you've been in it for as long as I have, which I haven't really met anybody that has, but there's a few of them out there, different levels. He's helped me. Like right now, I'm looking into a teleprompter. I'll say it, or what he likes to call a confidence screen, because I've always done this in the past, looking around and whatnot. So now I get to look straight ahead into the camera. Very, very easy read. But if you're looking to set up your home studio, this is the book you want to read. This is the guy you want to follow. He is the founder of Home Studio Mastery Programs. He helped me with, we're still working on the lighting here. And there's certain things I can do in this particular room, but it's upped my game here significantly. And I absolutely love it. And I got to see Junaid last week. He drove down from down to North Carolina at the event. Great episode talking about home studios, his concepts of how he got started. And one more time, I'm going to throw that out there. 7 Stages of Home Studio Evolution. Go check that out. You can get this on Amazon right now. Listen to that episode, Decision Hour. Next up, this one. This one's got me fired up. Other Side of the Firewall. This they do it. They do. Ryan does and Shannon. They do an episode every day, Monday through Friday. They are machines. Other side of the firewall. This is kind of like an IT type show. I've learned so much from IT, and I bug Ryan, I don't know, weekly with IT questions and stuff because I've learned so much from this show. The title of this show this week: Why the American Privacy Rights Act is Doomed. I read that title and I was like, oh, I'm already blood pressure going up, right? The conversation revolves around the lack of comprehensive privacy legislation in the United States and the need for a stronger data protection measures. The discussion highlights the failure of the American Privacy Rights Act and the removal of civil rights protections from the bill. The hosts expressed their frustration with the slow progress in implementing privacy regulations, especially compared to the European Union's GDPR. They discussed the personal data, big companies, and all the stuff that they just gather. Right? I mean, we carry around these pocket computers. They're snapping pictures of us. They're tracking every movement that we have. Right? The conversation also touches base on potential risk of brain data and the need for future legislation to protect it. And one of the things I think they were talking about is like, I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I want to say like Apple's developing an ear pod that will generate certain things in the brain and collect certain data. I don't know how that stuff is. Ryan, you're not bugging me. Thanks for the play. Absolutely, man. Keep up the good work, Ryan. This stuff is amazing. I mean, it's here's the thing. We say we have an American privacy that we have privacy, but we really, when you think about it, we wrote off privacy years and years ago. And here I'm going to stand on a soapbox for a second. And John, I want your opinion on this. Again, we carry around these pocket computers. There's more power in this, they say, than when we sent a man to the moon back in the 60s, right? The technology that's built in here right now. You have cameras, you have GPS, you have all of these things that are tracking. God knows all the things that government or some of these black programs are working on right now that we'll eventually see here in the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? So how do you define privacy? John, that's a question. Like, how do you define privacy?
Yeah, I define privacy of what I'm able to do that others don't know I'm doing. Think
Right.
B.
And the thing is do we have is there really any privacy? But do we really have privacy?
I don't believe so. I think that you can create environments in which you do have privacy. You have
Yes,
to be
I
hyper
agree.
intentional.
Yeah, I agree. You can create but as long as we're on the internet, as long as we're carrying cell phones around, as long as you have like an Apple Watch or something along those, anything that can track your location or whatnot, you don't have privacy. The only way you have privacy is you get rid of this and you go off grid. And I mean, you go literally off grid. And that's the only really way that you're going to have any means you get rid of credit cards, you pay cash for everything, or you barter for the things that you need.
Well,
Because even your debit cards or your credit cards or whatnot, those are all trackable, right?
and there's levels of privacy, right? So it's like, how much privacy do you want? Even just having a Wi-Fi router in your house, they can
Yep.
essentially do what's similar to a heat map of who's in the house, who's moving around,
Yeah.
and you can reconstruct the frequency from the Wi-Fi to have a picture inside the walls. So with
It's
technology,
that's scary that you just said that.
yeah. So it's interesting because there's different ways to see through things, and now you can just utilize the very things that are providing luxury to see. So it's when you look at all of that, I I've taken kind of the approach with the HOA that we talked about earlier of, well, if you can't beat them, use it to the maximal effectiveness, right?
No,
Um,
yeah,
if we want privacy, though, if we want to have some time where we feel like the sanctitude of being actually alone, we'll turn off Wi-Fi, we'll turn off all phones, everything else, put them in a box
yeah.
as like a Faraday cage, and completely have our little home go off the grid for a few hours, right? But aside from that, you're safer to assume that you are being listened to if you're within a device with a mic, which even remote controls for TVs now have mics.
Right.
So
And I've seen, I've heard from people in the intel community that work for certain agencies or whatnot. They're like, I won't say the name, but there's certain home systems that you have where you say something, something, please play this, or something, something, do this, or lights on, or whatever. Those systems, they've come out and have proven that they're tracking everything and
yeah,
logging stuff somewhere in some
how did
so
they hear? How do they hear their name, right? And it's
right.
kind of amusing because I have friends in the same communities, and they have those systems, and I laugh. I'm like, "Why do you have these systems?" And they're like, "It doesn't matter. Like, if you might as well enjoy the benefits because you're going to be heard." So interesting perspective.
It really it really is. And troublesome at the same time,
Yeah, it's
right?
doesn't feel
Great.
good.
Great. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Other Side of the Firewall is the name of the podcast. Go check it out. This is amazing. The title, this week's episode title is "Why the Americans Privacy Act is Doomed." It just was just an eye-opening episode. Loved it. So go check it out. Next up, we got Everyman's Odyssey. They're working on some new stuff. Our man Cole, check that out. Stay tuned for that. Shay Sparks Show. She's got some new stuff coming here in the next month or two. The Joel Evans Show. This week in this episode, he had the pleasure of interviewing Kevin Lavelle, the founder of Mizzen and Maine, and the co-founder and CEO of Harbor Sleep. They dive into a couple different topics, but some groundbreaking stuff, from disrupting the men's dress shirt market to innovating in the baby monitoring system. Wow. Uh, some key insights that you're going to hear: transforming baby monitors, discover how the company Harbor, addresses the significant shortcomings of current baby monitors, offering a dedicated and secure system that doesn't rely on the internet. That's kind of cool. Also, uh, prenatal sleep and anxiety. Learn about critical importance of improving sleep for parents to reduce stress, create a more supportive environment in raising children. Joel does some really cool episodes and has some great shows on it. Go check it out. It's called the Joel Evans Show. Next up, Label Free Podcast. Our gal Deanna. She's got author Kathy Killer, who shares her incredible story of survival. Pay attention, folks. Kathy has overcome multiple health challenges. She talks about including battling cancer twice and surviving an attack against the notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. Kathy recounts the experience of the attack in detail, highlighting her resilience and determinations to heal and to move forward. Her motivation for writing a book called A Light in the Dark: Surviving More Than Ted Bundy was not only to share her own story, but also shed light on the lives of the Bundy's victims, who often go unnoticed. This was like a episode. You're just like, wow. The stuff that this woman went through, like, hats off to her. Amazing. Great episode. It's called Label Free Podcast. Check it out. Next up, we got Because Bikers Matter podcast with our man Vegas. This week, he's speaking with Danny Brown to discuss the latest offerings at the Eagle Rider rental location. They talk about the new 2024 models available for rental, motorcycles, for those of you that unaware of what I'm talking about. They talk about the Tri-Glide and the other Harley models, and then they talk about the popular Route 66 tours with details and starting point in Chicago and the average duration of the guided tours. I thought this was pretty cool. Now, I lived in Flagstaff, Arizona for many years. That's right off of the famous Route 66. There's a lot of, I just think stuff like that is cool. So, for those of you who don't know, the famous Route 66 goes from Chicago all the way out to Los Angeles. And if you ever get a chance to drive it, you get to see some pretty cool stuff on it. So I love it. Check it out, Because Bikers Matter podcast. A couple more. Stay with me. Next up, we got the MSEC podcast, Military Child Education Coalition. Great organization. You guys know what's coming. If you are a active duty guard, reserve, or a veteran, and you have children in the home of age that are still in school, go follow militarychild.org. They have a ton of resources for families, and this is all about the military kids, and I absolutely love it. This week's MSEC podcast, Dr. Elizabeth Connors and Dr. Samantha Reeves discuss the impact that data has in developing a unit for mental health support system. They address the importance of having a system and individual level data to assess the quality of programs and services and how to utilize that data to make improvements in the school. And this is the title of this one, Why Data Matters in School Mental Health. So they always do a good episode. Check it out. It's the MSEC podcast. Last, certainly not least, we got Chasing Happiness. Our boy Ryan, go check out his stuff. Every Saturday, he drops a new episode. It's called Chasing Happiness. And then Rise Up, Voices from the Front Line. She's on a little bit of an R&R, so she's coming back here next week. She's got some new stuff coming out as well. Sponsors, shout out. I got to spend some time with my tax fella on Wednesday. I went out to New Jersey to their office out there and spent some time with Anthony. If you're a business owner or you're looking to have your bookkeeping done or get your taxes done, go to mytaxfella.com. Check them out. They're great. Been working with them literally for 9 years since we've started HMG. So they've been with us since day one, and they do fantastic work. Forget Genetics, veteran-owned company. Check them out for all you deer hunters out there. This is the stuff that you want in your woods. All the animals, all the woodland creatures want to come in. This stuff's great. I love it. ForgetGenetics.com. Go check it out. Veterans PCS, motorcycle safety lawyers. Listen, guys that ride motorcycles, motorcycle safety lawyers, they should be on your speed dial. Home Studio Mastery with our man Junaid. Mentioned him earlier. The Freedom People, another great episode. Or excuse me, another great organization. And I cannot forget, I'm going to show the Sisu Stamina Universal Learning Approach with our man Jon, who just happens to be right there. I love this stuff. I'm telling you. Check it out. Jim Neary's Bait and Tackle. Go to jimneary'sbaitandtackle.com, and they got some fishing tournaments coming up. Warriors on the Water LTD, another great organization. They take veterans and first responders out fishing, and they do a lot of stuff. Jim and Gina, great people, huge supporters of the network. Absolutely love them. Thank you guys. JB Auto Clothiers. I'm not wearing a suit jacket today because it's too hot, but veteran owned, custom made measure suits for you, men and women. They do suits, jackets, tuxedos, shirts, ties. They're now diving into ties. Absolutely love it. Check it out. And then, of course, our sister company, HMG Beverage, with our coffee line. HMG. You can also go to hmgcoffee.com, get your coffee. That's it. That's everything. Done.
Finito.
Jon, I appreciate you jumping on today.
Thank you for having me. Glad to start the day with you.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Folks, don't forget, It's Friday. It's the weekend. Take this, shove it in a drawer, shut it off, get the internet, get off the internet, get off the, well, until we're done watching the show here, obviously. But get out in nature, get outside this weekend, spend time with the family, do a barbecue, do something. And again, let me say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to be saying this all month. Thank you. 9 years of trying to make the world a better place, and I can't help but to thank all you listeners, viewers out there. Thank you to all the shows that are currently on the network and those that have been on the network in the past, because without all of you, I would not be doing what we do. So again, thank you, everybody. That's it. Jon, any parting words?
Thanks again. Let's support forward.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Guys, have a great weekend. God bless you. God bless America. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.